Long before cities bustled and markets thrived, the backbone of medieval life walked on 4 legs, and the people who guarded them were rarely remembered. The medieval shepherd lived far from the village, facing wolves, storms, and solitude. Yet their quiet work fed the cloth trade, kept villages alive, and shaped rural life for centuries. Tonight, step onto the wind-swept moors, hear the soft bleating of sheep, and see the Middle Ages through the eyes of the people who watched over its flocks. If you love uncovering history's hidden, everyday heroes, hit like, tap subscribe, and let Boring History for Sleep guide you into the past, one forgotten life at a time. On a wind-swept moor, the land stretches in all directions, clothed in grasses, brambles, and pale heather. Far from the clustered warmth of the village, a solitary figure rises from a rough blanket of wool, shaking off the morning chill. You are the shepherd guardian of the flock, familiar with the seasons, and unnoticed by all but the sheep and the sky dot. In the Middle Ages, shepherds are everywhere and nowhere, their lives fundamental but quietly invisible in the chronicles of kings and knights. Their work begins early, well before the first rays of sun gild the horizon, a crook in hand and a heavy cloak wrapped tight. The shepherd surveys the flock, dozens or perhaps hundreds of sheep, each one a source of wool, milk, meat, and livelihood for the community. Some sheep are marked with a dab of colored dye, others bear wooden or bone tags, rudimentary but effective signs of ownership in a world where disputes over livestock can mean feuds or court cases. The first order of the day is vigilance. Sheep stray and wander, drawn to greener grass beyond the herd. The shepherd's watchfulness is not idle. At any moment, a lamb might tumble into a ditch, or a way become trapped in brambles. Predators are an ever-present threat. Wolves and wild dogs in the forested north, or, in warmer climes, packs of jackals or bears. Even human thieves are not unknown, especially in times of famine. The shepherd's tools are few but essential. The staff is for guiding and gentle correction. A sling or stones may be used to scare off predators or unruly rams. Sometimes a faithful dog works alongside the shepherd, circling the herd and responding to whistles or sharp calls. The shepherd's pouch holds cheese, coarse bread, and perhaps an onion, enough for a long day away from home. Time on the moor passes slowly, with no one for company but sheep and dog. The shepherd falls into the rhythm of the day, mending fences, plaiting rushes, whittling a small flute, or practicing slingshot skills on distant stumps. In summer, the shepherd watches for signs of illness: wool tangled with burrs, limp in the gait, or a cough that might signal rot or disease. In winter, attention turns to shelter, guiding the flock to hollows out of the wind, or huddling beneath a rock ledge when snow threatens. Weather is a constant adversary and companion. Rain can turn paths to mud and leave sheep shivering, while the sun can parch both grass and shepherd alike. Shelter is often improvised, a rough hut of stone or turf, or a simple lean-to of branches and hides. Nights are long and lonely, with only the crackle of a small fire and the chorus of distant owls for company. The shepherd's world is filled with small, essential chores. Lambing season is especially busy. Newborns must be protected from the cold, the weak encouraged to nurse, the mothers kept calm and safe. Injuries and illness require patience and knowledge passed down from older shepherds: how to bind a leg, treat a cough, or spot the signs of a failing animal. The flock's health is the shepherd's constant worry and, in a hard year, a personal burden that weighs heavily. Yet, even in this life of solitude, the shepherd is not entirely isolated. On the edge of the pasture, neighbors may meet and share news of prices at the wool market, of bandits on the road, of rumors from the distant town. Occasionally, a priest or tax collector will cross the moor, and the shepherd may trade a story, a bit of cheese, or some weather advice. But what is the shepherd's place in the village? How do they fit into the broader fabric of medieval society? And what happens when disaster strikes the flock? In a world that prizes stability and routine, how does the humble shepherd adapt to change, and who remembers their quiet labor when the story of the year is told? A shepherd's life is woven with the threads of both routine and risk. As days turn to weeks and seasons change, the challenges of the moor reveal themselves in new ways. The piece of open land can quickly give way to crisis, sometimes in the form of sudden storms, sometimes in the slow encroachment of sickness, or in the ripple effects of decisions made far away in village halls or distant courts. The weather remains the shepherd's chief adversary. One afternoon, the sky turns dark, and a cold wind whips across the moor. The sheep cluster together, anxious, as the first fat drops of rain begin to fall. A good shepherd reads the signs, the wind's direction, the look of the clouds, the behavior of the flock. If a storm is coming, there is no time to waste. The flock must be gathered quickly and steered to higher ground, or to a known shelter, perhaps a stand of trees, a half-collapsed stone hut, or a dip in the land shielded from the worst of the gale. Storms are not just a test of the shepherd's endurance, but of resourcefulness. Sometimes, a lost lamb must be carried on the shepherd's back, wrapped in a cloak. Sometimes, a night is spent wet and cold, huddled with the flock, the fire impossible to light. Even in the best of times, the shepherd is always on alert, counting heads, listening for distressed bleats. and waking often to check the flock through the darkness. Illness is another persistent threat, both to sheep and shepherd. Diseases spread quickly in close quarters. Sheeppox, foot rot, and mysterious fevers can decimate a flock. The shepherd learns to spot trouble early, examining gums, feeling for heat in the fleece, noting listless behavior. Remedies are basic: herbal poultices, rest, or isolation from the rest of the flock. In a good year, most sheep recover. In a bad year, the losses can be catastrophic, not just for the shepherd but for the entire village that depends on wool and meat. Disaster strikes hardest during lambing season. A single cold snap, a night of heavy rain, or a run of illness can wipe out half the year's new lambs. The shepherd's hands are always busy helping with births, drying shivering newborns, coaxing reluctant mothers to nurse. Success brings relief and pride. Failure is met with quiet resignation. There is little time to grieve the flocks. Needs continue, and the shepherd presses on, adapting, learning, and doing what can be done. The village's fortunes are tied to the shepherd's quiet work. Each year a portion of the wool is spun and woven for clothing and blankets. The rest is sold at market, bringing precious coin to the manor in the village. The lord or landowner inspects the flock at intervals, and the shepherd answers questions about numbers, births, losses, and the health of the herd. Taxes and tithes must be paid, sometimes in wool, sometimes in sheep or lambs. Shepherds are often at the edge of the village's social world, respected for their skill, but seen as solitary and a little apart. At market, the shepherd trades wool, cheese, or meat for salt, new boots, or a sturdy cloak. Stories are swapped in the tavern. News is exchanged with other herders, and sometimes a lonely life is brightened by a festival or a holy day, when all the shepherds gather and celebrate the end of the lambing season. Yet beneath the quiet surface, the shepherd's world is shaped by invisible forces: changes in land ownership, the arrival of new diseases, or the slow advance of fields once shared by all are divided and fenced by powerful landlords. These shifts bring uncertainty and sometimes hardship. The shepherd adapts as best as possible, seeking work elsewhere or learning new skills. But what happens to the shepherd's knowledge and traditions as the world changes? Who learns the old remedies, the ways of reading weather, or the care of the flock? As you listen to the wind across the moor and the steady, patient bleating of sheep, you may wonder what is preserved and what is lost, as one quiet generation gives way to the next. As the years wear on, the world of the medieval shepherd subtly but irrevocably shifts. The gentle routines of the pasture, the sound of sheep tearing grass, the regular circuit from sunrise to sunset endure. Yet, beyond the moors and fields, change creeps in, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. Shepherding knowledge is passed down not in books or charters, but in careful demonstration and patient words. A father or mother teaches their child how to read the sky, how to listen for the cry of a sick lamb, how to weave a shelter from brambles or find water on a parched hillside. Each season brings new challenges and familiar diseases, different weather patterns, or the appearance of strange faces on the edge of the grazing land. The shepherd's wisdom adapts, drawing on centuries of experience but bending to the needs of the moment. Villages begin to change, shaped by forces both near and distant. Some are emptied by plague or drawn into the conflicts that swirl across medieval Europe. Land that was once open pasture becomes divided, claimed by local lords, enclosed by hedges, or set aside for new crops. Shepherds who once roamed freely find themselves hemmed in, obliged to seek permission or pay fees to graze their flocks. Some move on to other pastures, others settle into new routines as laborers, walkers, or even weavers in growing towns. Yet the shepherd's role endures, if quietly, in every era. There are those who walk the pastures at dawn, tend the lambing ewes, and watch the stars wheel overhead as the flock sleeps. They leave little written record, but their presence is felt in the soft blankets woven from their wool, the cheeses made from their milk, the songs sung by firesides that speak of wide skies and lonely hills. In rare cases, the lives of shepherds leave more visible marks. Archaeologists uncover remnants of sheepfolds, stone huts, or wooden staffs worn smooth by generations of hands. In old records, manorial rolls, legal disputes, or lists of fines catch glimpses of names now lost. Their labor noted only when something went wrong: a missing lamb, a trespass, a quarrel over boundaries. Sometimes a shepherd is mentioned in a parish register, baptized, married, or buried, their life compressed into a single line. The most enduring legacy of the medieval shepherd, however, is cultural. Folklore preserves their stories in the tales of faithful dogs, clever sheep, and wise herders who outwit wolves or thieves. Festivals mark the turning of the year, the arrival of spring lambs, the shearing of the flock, the bringing in of wool for the market. Songs and proverbs, passed from one generation to the next, remind the village of the quiet importance of those who watch over the flock when no one else is awake. As you drift into sleep, picture a solitary shepherd beneath a sky spangled with stars. The flock settles for the night, the dog curls at the shepherd's feet, and the distant lights of the village twinkle on the horizon. The work is sometimes lonely, but always essential, a gentle persistence that bridges centuries. Weathering hardship and change with patient resilience, the sheep's bleating fades into silence, and dawn is never far away. The world of the medieval shepherd rooted in the land, guided by experience, shaped by care reminds us that even the quietest lives leave traces that last far beyond their own time. And in every quiet pasture, in every patient act of tending, the story continues one small life, woven into the enduring fabric of history.